Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're giving everyone a few moments to join from the waiting room. Hello, everyone. I think everyone may have joined from the waiting room, so welcome for our weekly update. This is Sabrina Paganoni. I'm talking from the Healey Center. As always, I'm here with our patient navigation team, Catherine Small and Alison Bullat. And tonight, I'm really excited to introduce Judi Carey. I'm sure that many of you know Judi and have been in communication with her. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Judi to introduce herself and the amazing work that she's been doing over the last several years. Judi?
Thank you, Sabrina. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here. I was just talking with Catherine and I said, oh my, I think I was part of the original team for the platform trial, which we started way back in like February of 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. So it's really nice to see everybody. If you want to go to my next slide. So my job title is a research access nurse. I have never met another research access nurse. So if they're out there, please reach out to me. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I do in the ALS world for research. And my position here at the Healey Center started in the winter of 2017. And I think it was Dr. Berry who realized that they needed to fill a void with somebody who could talk specifically about the research trials that they were doing at Mass General. And so I set out to begin this venture. And here I am six years later, plus some months. When I first started, I'm not even sure. I honestly didn't know what to expect. And I am sure that many of the doctors did not know how to incorporate me into their practice. So I would be in clinic and sometimes I would go in and talk with patients about trials. But we eventually figured out how to complement each other and how to work together to help our patients learn about research. So over here is just a list of the tasks that I still perform. I talk about specific trials at Mass General and I provide an overview. I call it a Research 101 overview about ALS research. I definitely help to confirm eligibility for trials. I connect patients to other research centers for not the platform trial, but for other trials that we are enrolling for, and they may happen to live on the other side of the country. I let Catherine connect people across the country for the platform trial. And I work with about 30 wonderful and bright coordinators to help create research and recruitment materials. And now Catherine and Allison and I also create materials for the platform trial together. So if I had to say specifically, if you had to say what the most important tasks are, I would say that my job is to share reliable information about research. I also love to advocate for access for people to gain access to trials. And I think the overarching theme of what we on the communication team do and what we try to provide is hope through our sharing of information about research. Next slide, please. And so I thought it would be nice or fun maybe to talk about what research access was like then 6 years ago, what it's like now, and then maybe where we are headed. So certainly one of the biggest changes is the availability of more research options. I look back at my brochures from 2017 and there were 4 trials in investigational drug trials. And of course, now with the platform trial, we're already on to regimen F and soon G. So there's many more placebo-controlled options out there. There's also a lot more options for either open label extension or active treatment extension, which was really not available for every trial back in 2017. So that's another big change that I've seen. And another area we all are learning about EAPs. And Mass General had a small program of EAPs back in 2018. With the launch of the platform trial, of course, came the companion EAPs, which shared the love with some of the other sites in the platform trial. And now we are all engaged in launching the multi-center Trehalose EAP, which is going to be at approximately 25 centers. So those are some big changes from then and now. The other change is for me, when I first started, I used to walk into a room to talk about research. The clinical nurses used to handle that. So they would talk about progression of symptoms and management with medications, and provide community resources. And then they would launch into conversations, detailed conversations about research trials on the heels of all of that important clinical information. And so when I started working and I would go to clinic, I shortened the conversations, which probably some of you, if you know me, probably find that hard to believe, but I would really just kind of hit on the highlights about research and hand out my business cards and give out the research brochures and invite people to reach out to me, which was fine. And some people did, but many people didn't. So now we've switched it around in that the patients who are interested in research are identified by their providers. And then I get their information and we set up a Zoom call, and that allows people to be in the comfort of their home when they're ready to talk about research. They can invite. I've shown up on Zoom calls and there's 6 or 7 people, and that's really nice because they feel supported. So the incorporation of Zoom calls for research talks has been really a wonderful tool. I know we don't love Zoom every day, all day, but for my purposes, it's been very helpful. Another change that I've seen is an increase in access to research locally. Of course, again, through the platform trial. When I first started, I would sit and have long conversations with people near and far. I probably engaged in email conversations with 250 people internationally and people living across the country that were never going to be able to come to Mass General, but they needed to hear from somebody, and I was that somebody. And I called them my phone of friends and my pen pals, and I still hear from some of them, which is so wonderful. But more importantly, now there's so much more access locally, and that is, again, because of the platform trial has done that, which is great. The fourth thing that I've seen, and this is crucial to what we do, is the wonderful partnerships that we have with the ALS community. It's really critical to what we do when we're designing trials and creating research and recruitment materials. We have so many wonderful partnerships in the community, and that was not available all the way back in 2017. And then the next thing that I've seen a big, of course, welcomed myself to the patient engagement team, which is what Catherine and Allison and I call ourselves. We worked kind of alongside each other. And then in 2021, we were working in parallel, and then it just made sense for us to converge, and because we were possibly communicating with the same people. So now the 3 of us have created this team, and we all have slightly different roles. But the bottom line is our goal is to communicate reliable information to people interested in learning about ALS research. And then when we look into the future, and this is an area especially where Allison is focused, and myself, is we talk about, what is DEI? We hear about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we're trying to define what that is in our realm of ALS research. And we are doing our best to figure out how to reach out beyond the walls of the hospitals that we all engage with, to reach out to the community, to people that are not yet learning about what's going on in research, because of course they also deserve and should know what's happening and have the option to participate in trials. So we work a lot on figuring out like health literacy and creating materials that could maybe be printed, or maybe they're like short media clips or something like that, but we have a long way to go. So we look to the future to really engage in those two topics, health literacy and diversity, equity, inclusion. And then my final slide is the next one. Well, here you get to look at me again. But so this is my page on our website, and some of you have figured out how to find me. So I always welcome you. You are welcome to reach out to me by phone or email. The email address has changed from mine to one that I share with Catherine and Allison, just so that we make sure that we're all, on the same page and not duplicating efforts with communicating with people. So I just want to, first of all, I love my job. I love being in this space. I feel so humbled every day to work in this community. I don't know how I landed here, but here I am. I work with amazing doctors, and my team of Catherine and Allison, we all work, we do our best every day. And I try to tell people we can't cure ALS. Well, not Sabrina, but Catherine, Allison, and I. And we can't even necessarily select the trial that is going to have the best outcome for you, but we can communicate the hell out of what's going on in ALS research. And that's what I think is really an important part of what's going on in the research world, is to really provide you with good information so that you can go forth and decide what you would like to do in your research endeavors. So thank you so much. I think that's all I have to say, but thank you for inviting me.
I know that our patient navigation team has already received a few questions about the work that Judi does. So Alison, do you mind asking a few of those questions, and then we can proceed?
Sure. I'm a pro at asking Judi questions. It's what I do all day. Judi, thank you for that overview. Start jumping in on the first question. Do you work on trials and expanded access for all MGH neurology disorders or just ALS?
Oh, I just live in the ALS world, but that's a great question. Yeah, there's lots to do in ALS. So no, that's where I am. But if you reach out to me, we have so many resources, right, at our fingertips. So if you reach out to me, I have connected people to other centers within Mass General, if that's helpful.
Wonderful. So Judi, when people reach out to you, how do you help them decide if clinical research is right for them?
That is such a good question. Patience and just talking things through with them. Some people, it's important not to have a lot of visits. Some people don't want to have long visits. Some people don't want to have lumbar punctures. So by a series of educating them about what the requirements are for the different trials, and then an important piece of this is sending them information for them to read and share with their neurologist, to check in with their doctors. And then sometimes it's another conversation, but just by a series of having chats and sharing information, they do arrive at what makes sense for them.
And is it okay if people choose not to participate in clinical research?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's sometimes what comes out of the conversations. Some people want to travel. Some people want to pay attention to everyone should pay attention to what's going on in research, but some people just would rather do other things. I am going to give a little plug, so get ready. There's always observational studies that people can participate in, and they don't require a lot of visits. Some of them don't require any visits, and every single thing that anybody does get involved with for research is super helpful. So come along for the ride in any way that you feel that you can.
And I've heard you say a number of times that even if you choose not to participate in clinical research, or you don't have access to or can't for some reason, it's important to know that it's happening on your behalf.
Yep, that is so true. Absolutely.
Judi, what do you think is the most difficult part about what you do?
Oh, I would say, I think it's really hard. Sometimes I do get to know people, as we all do. And sometimes it's just really hard when they really want to get into research and they can't. But I'm going to turn that into a positive, because now that there are becoming more and more expanded access opportunities, and there's off labels that doctors are willing to prescribe. I feel like there's just, it's not as difficult as it was in 2017 when I had the same 3 or 4 trials to talk about. So no, I'm not, it's true. So that's a great question, but that's what I would say is we can continue to help people and find a place for them in this world for research.
Wonderful. What is your favorite part of the job that you do? Other
Oh,
than working with me and Catherine, you can't
Oh
say.
yeah, that's just, yeah, that's just, honestly, the people are amazing. And I bet the community hears that a lot from all of us, but sincerely, I love engaging with people that are living with ALS. They just are so deserving to find answers. I can't give them those, but I love all the things that they accomplish, and hearing about what they get done with this diagnosis. So it's all the people that I meet.
Definitely. Well, thank you. There's also some comments thanking you for what you do. I think
Oh,
here's another plug. Judi is the most humble person that you will come across and have so much impact on the community. So thank you for everything you do.
oh, thank you.
And please do feel free to keep putting any questions for Judi into the chat, but I think I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Paganoni, for the update.
Thank you so much. And I saw that Catherine has kindly posted a number of resources in the chat, you know, how to reach Judi and our team, and also some of the links to the papers that were asked, that we discussed last time. So if you don't see the chat, I'm not sure if people, when they watch the recording, if they can see the chat function. If not, I don't think so. So if you're not here live and you would like access to the papers that we mentioned last week, please email Catherine and she can send them to you. So actually, there's a couple of great questions that maybe can allow Judi to give us some examples of the work that she does. Somebody asked, you know, I'm having trouble finding expanded access. Specifically, this request is in Michigan, but I guess it could also be asked in general terms. Judi, how do you or Catherine and Allison help people find trial options or expanded access in particular, depending on where they live?
Definitely that's going to be more challenging than the research trials, but it's not impossible because more opportunities are coming. One of them being the Trehalose multi-center EAP. This is the first of its kind. It's going to be at 25 centers. So sometimes I suggest people start with your own center, and see what they are doing or what they might offer in the way of expanded access or even off labels, because that's really off labels are also investigational too, without a placebo. So I would say there's some websites like the FDA has a website. NEALS keeps a list of the expanded access, and Mass General has a list of expanded access, but I'm not gonna tell you that they're not still few, but just start with your own neurologist. I'm always happy to talk to people. If they're not patients here, that's fine. I think helping to educate about EAPs is really important too. That's where we go back to that reliable information, is really understanding what EAPs are all about and why they are still limited at this time. So if you have my contact information, please reach out.
Exactly. And obviously, I saw a comment in the chat saying that, you know, when you watch this as a recorded webinar, the chat function doesn't work. We can try to see, I don't know, Catherine and Allison, we can ask our IT department if there's a way to essentially record the chat or show it on the recording. I'm not sure, but we'll definitely look into that. There's also a question about how to find off-label options. I would highly recommend going through the ALS Untangled website, and maybe Catherine, that's another thing that we can share in the chat, because the ALS Untangled website, the great review of what's available, and it's kept up to date. So that will be my go-to place to, and obviously, you know, once you read all of that, please discuss with your physician so that you can see we, again, get more sort of real-time discussion in terms of the off-label options that are discussed there. There's a good question about what makes the Trial ALS EAP the first of its kind. Didn't we have other multi-center EAPs? I'm happy to take that. So as Judi was saying, she's been working for us with us for a few years. But Judi, the landscape has changed dramatically. So I know that for people who are new to this, it may sound like there's few options, and again, it's obviously not as many trials or EAPs as we would want yet. But just to put things in perspective, until we started very small EAPs at single centers in 2018 for literally a handful of participants, there were no EAPs. So before 2018, pretty much zero. Between 2018 and 2021, we really had only a handful of programs that were very limited. I think at MGH we enrolled over that time period, I believe 200 people, but that was it. And that was really only at our center and very few other centers. Then after, we spoke with the patient, this was with discussions with the patient community, the patient advisory committee asked us to set up multi-center EAPs, and we did so for the very first time in 2021. This was the EAP companion to the platform trial. So again, before 2018, no EAPs. Between 2018 and 2021, really a handful of them, but very limited. Since 2021, we started very small EAPs for some of the regimens in the platform trial. Those were funded by philanthropy. Literally, those were funded by many of you who have been so generous to do things like 5Ks, golf tournaments, and things like that. Literally, it's been a movement of people that allowed us to launch the very first multi-center EAPs in 2021. I believe that we have enrolled about 100 patients, maybe at 9 sites. I would have to check the numbers. So we were able to expand from 1 center to 9 centers, but we're still, and we generous contributions from the community that really did fundraising for this. That was great. I mean, really incredible. But what makes Trial ALS different? Well, there's 2 things. Number one, because it's funded by the NIH and we have more funding than we could otherwise have from donations, we were able to go to 25 sites. So just in terms of order of magnitude, literally until 2021, we were talking of 1 site, and then, we expanded to 9, great, but now we can go to 25, and that's obviously better. The other thing is that the previous EAPs, because of funding limitations, they were good to allow people access, but there wasn't much knowledge gained. There was some knowledge gained from those, some data on safety and some limited data on biomarkers too, but that was by definition limited because of the funding available. Now, with the NIH funding, we can do something that we were never able to do before in EAPs, which is to do actual research. So the contribution to research and knowledge about ALS is multiplied by an order of magnitude. So, I mean, literally, it's completely different from anything that we've done before. And we're still pioneers. We're still learning about all of this. And hopefully, we'll get more funding for other EAPs. We would love to do that, to get more funding. And we have ideas about how to really essentially double the number of sites and really create even more research opportunities. But these things actually are expensive. And that's why we need to apply for this grant opportunities, because they really are important. So thank you for, I got a positive comment about the EAP overview. I want to mention that I also want to publish this. We published 3 papers about our own single center experience. Again, we're talking of the dinosaur age, right? We're talking of 2018, 2019, when we were doing it based on very, very limited funding, only at 1 site. So you're free to look at those 3 papers. At least 2 are open access. The 3rd, as soon as the open access kind of process goes through, it will be open access, meaning everyone can read them, the full paper. We are now going to be writing about our EAP companion, the one that we just mentioned, sort of the 2021, 2022 experience, that's sort of intermediate, a little bit bigger than before, a little bit more expensive, but and more data collected, but not to the point of what we're doing now with the Trial ALS EAP. sites across the country, lots of research. It's a completely different ball game. So I plan on writing, you know, in addition to discussing that over here, I plan on writing and publishing the papers open access. It does take some time for all these publications to come out, which is why we want to have the webinar so that we can provide the information in real time. And we are certainly writing all of these up. So, and some papers again are already available open access. So if we can go to the next slide, just to quickly give updates. As you know, we are continuing to grow the platform trial itself. So we spoke a lot about EAPs, but really the main topic of this webinar, to be honest, is the actual platform trial. So I do want to give an update on that as well. Next slide. And right now we have 40 sites that are active for regimen F. As you know, every week we update the list of sites that are activated. We're really trying to rapidly activate all of the sites. Hopefully we'll go to 60 or 70 plus soon. Right now we have 40 that are active. What that means is that these sites are accepting participants for regimen F. So I would really invite everyone to participate in regimen F if eligible, and again to participate in the platform trial. The sooner we enroll in regimen F and very soon in G, the sooner we will be able to have answers and know if these drugs work. Next slide. And this is sort of our link to our website where you can find the activation status of our sites. Next slide. Next. And if you want to learn more about regimen F, you can always go to our website. We have these resources available. Next slide. And we have webinars available. Recordings are actually available on our website about regimen F. So if you missed the regimen F's webinar, I think it's a great webinar to really learn everything about the drug itself, about the science and the mechanism of action. Next slide. There is a component of lumbar puncture and biomarkers, which is very important in this regimen because we are going to learn a lot about some of the new biomarkers. In fact, I think, Catherine, you just posted the link to some of the publications really hot off the press that are describing some of the novel biomarkers. There's a number of biomarkers. We're going to test some of these in the regimen. In other regimens in general, we're collecting samples like spinal fluid to be able to rapidly translate the new discoveries that are made in the lab. As an example, those that Catherine shared in the chat, we're able to directly test them and make progress right away so that we can go from bench to bedside and really immediately test if these biomarkers are a viable option for us to be able to tell more efficiently if the drugs work or not. Next slide. And this is our link we have for our webinars and the ALS link, which is our newsletter. So we will have, we are still, I know Catherine is really working on sort of the schedule of the future guest speakers. I do want to talk about G as well. And there's actually a great question in the chat. You know, F is enrolling, how about G? So we are really getting very close to enrolling in regimen G. We will have a webinar about regimen G. We generally have a webinar dedicated to the science and the mechanism of action of each drug right when we launch enrollment so that it's more relevant for you. You know, if again, we're going to be having that over the next few weeks and we'll start enrolling for G soon. And yes, F and G will be enrolling at the same time. You know, most sites will be part of both. So there's a couple of questions. I think in the last minute we can take a couple more questions. So to clarify, these drugs are still investigational, so we do not know if the results will be positive or not. So the question is, do you think that these drugs will be approved by the FDA? Unfortunately, I'm unable to tell right now because we have not done the study. So regimens F and G have that one purpose, to be able to tell if F and G, the respective drugs, are effective. If they are, they could pass FDA approval. But again, first we need to enroll in the trial, you know, follow all participants, and then we will be able to tell if the drugs are effective or not. And there's a question about sort of being on more than one drug at the same time. So for example, can somebody be on trialoz from regimen E and also be in F or G? Well, unfortunately, and that's true for every trial, every time we test a new drug, because we don't know if the one drug works or not, the only way to tell and not have sort of confounding factors weigh on the results. Essentially, we can only test one drug at a time for now. Now, we are allowing people to be on approved medications. So if patients are already on what's approved by the FDA that we know that works, like Riluzole, Relivrio, Radicava, those are allowed. However, when we add a new experimental drug or investigational product, like the drugs tested in these regimens, all of them, E, F, and G, etc., add one at a time for now. Maybe in the future we'll be able to do combinations, absolutely. But right now, in order to be able to tell if each individual drug works or not, we have to test them one by one. And Judi, I'll leave you a second for a final word, if you have anything else to share with the community.
I try to pop on these, but I've really enjoyed being with everyone today. It was very interesting. Please reach out if you have any questions.
Excellent. And on that
Okay.
note, we'll adjourn the meeting and we'll see everyone next week. Thank you.